Welcome back. It's Ed D'Souza coming at you, NECANN 2019. I'm sitting here with Blake Mensing, the Mensing Group. This guy, I'm just going to shameless plug. This guy's my attorney. He should be your attorney. If you saw my presentation yesterday, I mentioned there's a lot of ancillary businesses that tie into the cannabis community, and a law firm or a lawyer should be one of your first contacts because you're going to run into issues, you're going to run into municipal crises, and Blake, that's where you come in.
Absolutely, yeah. So my background is as a municipal attorney. I used to represent 7 towns throughout the Commonwealth on all sorts of things. So I've drafted bylaws, I've advised planning boards, dealt with the siting of medical dispensaries in an advisory role. And I've been an enthusiast of the cannabis plant for 21 years.
See, that's what separates you, is there's a lot of lawyers getting into the game for the green rush.
Absolutely.
You know, they don't have the love that you have or the passion for the community that you display.
So I am only still a lawyer today because of cannabis. I've been a lawyer for almost 9 years and was about ready to not be a lawyer because, frankly, the model at law firms is to grind people into dust and get as much out of them as possible. And so, day to day, putting on this mask of what I thought is supposed to be, acceptable at a law firm to try to advance, it just was slowly withering my soul. And I just decided that I don't want to miss out on this opportunity and think, oh, what if I had done this?
Sure.
So initially I quit my job as a municipal attorney to try to get my own license with my brother. And we were going to try to do a high-tech greenhouse with a micro business.
Yep.
And we just decided we don't have enough zeros in our bank account to do this the right way.
A lot of people are in that position.
It's insanely expensive. And so, people just started asking me, hey, you've got these local municipal skills. Why aren't you doing cannabis law? And like I said, I was about ready to just never be a lawyer ever again.
Yep.
But my goal in being a cannabis attorney and having a cannabis law firm that exclusively represents cannabis businesses is to make everyone succeed. And I want people like you, the little guys. I'm not like shopping myself on, State Street in Boston to these big people. And I'm not saying I wouldn't work for them, but that's not like lighting my fire like, ooh, that's exciting. I want people who love the plant as I do.
Yeah. It
just matters.
Yeah, there's people everywhere. Dr. Uma just walked by us.
She's great. So it's cannabis law is my calling, and it's I'm not ever going to practice any other area of law ever. So
now you're all over the place. I mean, you not only doing your organization, your dad, you've got kids at home, but you're at the State House constantly. You're in the front of the CCC constantly. You're traveling. I mean, have you cloned yourself? How are you doing this?
I would really like that technology to exist. I have an incredibly patient wife is how I'm doing it. We sort of, lucked out that our daycare for our kids is right where she works. So that's a big transition in the day that's sort of off of my plate. But I've been really fortunate to be able to work from home. I'll take a client anywhere in the state. A lot of the big Boston firms, won't go past $495. And to me, it's like I said, I want to get as many people licensed as possible. Yeah. So, this is selfish. I want to be able to go to a retail store and be like, I know that guy, I know that guy, this is the good stuff. And it's the best time ever.
So if somebody wants to inquire about your services, how can they go about doing that?
Sure. So I've got a website, mensinggroup.com, MENSING group.com. It gives a little bit of background about me and some of the people on my team. I do free consultations.
Yes, you do.
Typically last about an hour. I tell people what I do and what I don't do. I'm definitely different than a lot of lawyers in that some lawyers will sort of figure out how to do the thing you've asked them to do. Of course, that costs you money, and I just two things. I don't want to make a mistake. I'm terrified of that, and then I don't feel right, learning how to do something on someone else's dime. That's.
Well, I have to say, the first time I called you up, we had a good, half-hour conversation, and then you talked to my father, my business partner, for another 45 minutes or so. This is well before a retainer was even seen. So I don't want to say you give away your work, but I mean, this guy is honest. I've talked to other attorneys that don't operate that way.
No, and like you said earlier, a lot of attorneys in this space, I think they're seeing the wrong shade of green. Yes, I have to get paid because everyone has financial realities. Yeah, I mean, but That's not my primary motivation. It's a happy incidental, but yeah, like I said, I want to get as many good craft growers and craft processors up and running as I can, because I think the plant knows if you love it and you care for it.
Sure.
So that gives me some hope that, smaller operators that truly know what they're doing and care and agonize over every detail for every plant, they're going to be able to survive, when you're competing against the Anheuser-Busch version of weed.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I'm definitely not, the world's greatest cannabis connoisseur. I've smoked weed a long time and in a lot of different countries, but I know what mids are, and I don't want them.
You don't want them. So I want to ask you, I've read a lot of municipal bylaws, and I just shake my head at some of the things these people come up with. How do you keep your composure looking at this going, but wait, it's black and white, it's like right here, what is there to figure out?
So from my perspective representing municipalities, I know that municipal officials work very hard. I think
They do.
It tends to be a narrow focus. So if you're talking to the department head of, Board of Health or something, they're not going to know one thing about how the planning department works, because they have enough responsibility in that lane to be overwhelmed. So I don't think it's necessarily deliberate that they make it hard. I think it's just because they have so many other things. And, while you and I think about cannabis all day, every day, they don't. They don't have the bandwidth. So the best municipal official is the one who's aware that they don't know enough and they're willing to learn. I guess what's been surprising, given all the state's guidance talking about how municipal process should work, I would say none of the municipalities that I've appeared directly before know one thing about how the state regulatory structure goes. So
sure.
I've seen, HCAs saying, to even apply to get an HCA, you say, you must show me your state license first. And it's like,
yep.
you didn't read anything at all. So,
yeah, so speaking of HCAs, you've had a lot to say regarding the position that the CCC doesn't have the right to review HCAs.
Yes, so the statute describes the limits of what a host community agreement can contain. I sort of understand why people hate lawyers because of the back and forth on that.
Yep.
The statute is pretty clear. It says a cannabis operator has to have a host community agreement with the municipality to be able to be located there. You can have up to 3% of your gross revenues go to the town in the form of a community impact fee.
Yeah, a mitigation fee.
Right, for up to 5 years. The thing that gets lost is that fee is intended to mitigate some of the impacts from the business. It's not the blank check that I think a lot of municipalities view it as. It's not meant as a revenue generator. So the statute requires a nexus between the community impact fee and it being delivered to the municipality. So the disconnect is actually in the HCA guidance on the CCC website. It says, towns can have anticipated impacts as part of that fee. So there's another part of the statute that says when you incur a cost, the receipt to prove that cost becomes a public record. So how do you have a public record of an anticipated cost that doesn't actually have a receipt to back it up?
And wouldn't that open up a can of worms for the town? Should they not prove that that was that money was put towards that?
Exactly. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of litigation. I think the farce that these agreements are negotiated at arm's length and an equal bargaining position is not defensible, in my opinion. It's a take it or leave it deal pretty much every time I've been presented with a host community agreement. So that's got to change. I know there's some legislative language pending.
Yeah, Senator Yellen and Representative Kuzak have signed together to...
Yes, so they sent a letter to the CCC back in July basically saying to the CCC, of course you have the authority to review these contracts. And I actually made this point at the public listening session a week or so ago. If the CCC doesn't have the power to look at that contract, who on earth does? It makes no sense, especially with the climate of extreme regulation that this whole industry is under. Senator Jalen or Cusick wrote in the letter, or made a comment about it, that they thought it was more of an issue of reading comprehension than one of statutory interpretation, and I agree with that. I think if you just read that language like a human being instead of a lawyer, it says what it says, and it's obvious.
Sure.
So I sort of understand why people hate lawyers.
Well, you mentioned the open comment session that we were at the CCC a couple of weeks ago. Do you foresee any major changes to the CMR after these comment periods, or?
I mean, there's definitely going to be major changes. I don't know how heavily influenced they'll be by what we, the public, said. I hope. So they're obligated to listen. That's just part of administrative process. I've read a lot of public comments in my...
Well, it's kind of like me listening to my wife to put my socks in the hamper.
You've listened, right. How will it sink in? We don't know.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm hopeful. The commissioners, I think, have done a good job of knowing what they don't know, and they've shown the inclination to learn. I will say that I think, you have a 5-member commission. 4 of the commissioners voted no on question 4. That, to me, tells me they didn't do an awful lot of reading about the topic before that vote came up. Because
Which this gets me to, there are some positions that are going to be changing over pretty soon. I believe Shalene is going to be up rather soon.
Okay.
So do you feel that the way that the people are appointed to the CCC will remain the same, such as the governor has a pick, the AG has a pick? And
I don't think there's any political will or momentum to change that. And our governor is, I would say, barely tolerant of our industry at best. I don't think he's a big friend.
But you can now have an alcoholic beverage at the Boston Public Library.
Yes, you can. So
what about the children?
I know. I mean, we're gonna take a while. Actually, Chairman Hoffman says this a fair bit. He says you can't legislate away stigma, and that's true.
It is.
But I think as my children get older, they're gonna ask me someday, wait, it was illegal? Why? I think that's the level of...
Blake, they're gonna write a book about this one day. And may not be our children, maybe it's our grandchildren. They're going to be looking back at us as the way that we look at people right after Prohibition with alcohol.
Absolutely.
So we want to wrap it up here. This is Ed D'Souza coming at you from NECANN 2019. Before we go, Blake, one more time, your services are needed. How can people get a hold of you?
So you can check me out on the internet. You've heard of that. www.mensinggroup.com. I'm also on Instagram, which is a little weird for me. I hadn't written a hashtag until this time last year. But anyway, it's mass_cannabis_attorney. Very subtle, I know, but should be memorable.
Awesome, Blake.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Again, this is Ed D'Souza coming at you from NECANN 2019. Come down, have a great time. Peace.